What's up everyone, Soldier First Class here. In today's mission, we're going to be talking about the new Final Fantasy VII Remake trailer. We're going to do a more in-depth analysis of the trailer than we did in my reaction video. There's a little bit of intel to go over, so stay tuned soldiers. It's time for our next mission. I want to start off by saying thank you Square Enix, because I was tired of not talking about the leaked content and they basically showed everything we wanted to talk about. Keep in mind I won't be talking about anything from the leaks, only what was shown in the trailer. I also want to say that this was a fantastic way to celebrate the 23rd anniversary of the game and they didn't disappoint. I still have a few questions after this trailer, but the coming weeks are sure to be exciting. I just wanted to say, this might be the best trailer we've ever gotten. Also, now that I'm not blinded by hype overload, let's get right into this video. So I wanted to go in order of what we saw, but I can't help myself. Red 13 was finally revealed, and he looks so much better than those leaks gave him credit for. His voice sounds amazing, and I thought it was Matthew Mercer, but unfortunately we've gotten news that says otherwise. It's now been confirmed that Matthew Mercer is not the voice of Red 13. In a tweet this morning, he confirmed that he wasn't the voice, as apparently he got flooded with tweets after the trailer, so now we're still left guessing on most of the voice casts. From his beads and feathers down to his branding and fiery tail, he looks incredible and his fur looks really well done. It's more of a short-haired animal type fur instead of flowing fur like we saw with Sully in Kingdom Hearts 3. This should help them in the future as there will be less flowing features to animate. I also loved how Barrett asked, "So what the hell is it?" and then Red talks and scares all three of the party members. I think it gives a little more weight to Nanaki being a very unique creature and then all of a sudden he can talk. So let's go back to the beginning of the trailer, because I also want to talk about the Promise flashback. A while back, I made a video about how Nibelheim would be in the remake, which went over, well, let's just say not the way I had hoped. Regardless, we now have it confirmed that Nibelheim is in the first part of the remake, at least as it pertains to the Promise flashback. Child Cloud and Tifa look amazing and capture that essence of young innocence. It starts off with the famous starry sky above Nibelheim, and Cloud telling Tifa he's leaving to become a soldier just like Sephiroth. I absolutely love how faithful they're staying to the original scene and how great everything looks. I do want to point out one small detail though that I didn't notice before. If you look at Child Cloud's eyes, they're pre-Mako poisoning. While this doesn't seem like something major or even something you'll even notice, I love that they put that in there. It shows that there is in fact a cause and effect of the story on the characters, and it shows that on a deeper level than them just telling you. Next we got our first good look at Genova in her base form, and it looks creepy as hell. There were a few things I wasn't sure about, but after analyzing it, it appears that the Shinra HQ might be set up differently, or this isn't a different reactor. I thought at first it was the Sector 5 reactor, but after realizing that Aerith was in the scene, it has to be somewhere different. It wasn't clear to me at first, but I noticed afterwards that the rest of the party could see Sephiroth. Initially, I thought it was another one of Cloud's visions. We then got a really good close-up of Reeve, and the leaks did not do him justice either. Tetsuya Nomura knows character designing, and it really shows with how faithful he was to Reeve in this remake. It appears that Reeve is attempting to convince President Shinra not to drop the plate on Sector 7, and Heidegger is basically making fun of him, calling him a coward. We did see this in the original game, but it's nice to see this fully voice acted. I can't tell who the voice of Reeve is, but it sounds really, really good. In fact, I would say all the voices are sounding the best they've ever sounded. Before we move on to the next part, we get a graphic about the track called Hollow, and I gotta say, the song sets the mood perfectly. But I wouldn't expect any less out of Nobuo Uematsu, and it's really nice to have confirmation that he's back on the remake project. It features Japanese rock artist Yash on vocals, with lyrics by Kazushige Nojima. I love that these two are working together on the song, because that means Nojima has likely tied in story elements into the song to set the tone. The next scene was really interesting because we're actually watching the process of making materia. Then there's Scarlet, and she looks absolutely stunning. She's using a Shinra soldier as a footstool and chastises another one for interrupting her about a meeting. You can just tell from her character design and her way of speaking that Scarlet is a bad bitch and she's not taking any shit from anyone. Scarlet is the head of weapons development, so it makes sense that she would be overseeing the production of materia by Shinra. To make her even better, they put a subtle little kick with her leg that causes the footstool soldier to let out a grunt. I'm excited to see how they use Scarlet and how much of an impact she'll make in this first part. We then got a look at Palmer, and he could not be any more perfect. He comes off as just this big fat weasel that you can just tell that if he gets pressured, he snivels like a little kid. He has that uppity attitude as he sips his tea with his little yellow polka dot bow tie. He makes a remark about him being a man of refined taste, and you just can't help but smirk thinking about him getting hit by that truck in Rocket Town. Next up is the Honeybee Inn, and this got a massive overhaul. It almost comes off as a Broadway musical or a burlesque show, and the aesthetic is incredible. When they said they were redesigning the Honeybee Inn with a more modern feel, I wasn't expecting a Vegas-like atmosphere, but they definitely pulled that off and then some. There was a major change to wall market shown in this scene though, as it appears Cloud will now change into the dress in the Honeybee Inn. This doesn't tell us whether or not this is where you get the dress, it just shows him being put in it, with the honeybees putting makeup on him. I'm assuming the quest to get it is still the same, so until we get confirmation, I'm not considering this a complete quest overhaul. The dress looks a lot different than the original, but not in a bad way. I'm assuming this is Mucky, but it could be an entirely new character altogether. The character acts as if he's already known Cloud, but this could just be that Cloud has given him his name already. He gives Cloud a speech about beauty and how gender doesn't affect the beauty Cloud can achieve. I like this, as it's clear Cloud is really uncomfortable with the situation, and this character is trying to make him feel beautiful no matter how he feels. He then leans in really closely to Cloud and uses the word perfection as he stares into Cloud's eyes. Right after the Honeybee Inn, it shows Cloud coming out in his dress, with Cloud and Aerith sharing an exchange of words. Aerith is clearly making fun of Cloud and how embarrassed he is, and I love the interaction between the two. We get to see a few street shots of Wall Market, and it has the grimy slums look to it, with a little red light district mixed in. You can see Corneo's mansion in the background, and it looks much larger and to scale than it did in the original. We then see the front area of the mansion, and it's a pretty faithful recreation of the front gate from the original. We got Tifa in her Wall Market dress with zero sports bra. I repeat, she is not censored in her Wall Market dress. I know that's a weird thing to instantly point out, but I caught a lot of hate on a previous video for the censorship issue. I just want to point out how absolutely stunning she looks and how well that dress complements her. They did such an amazing job with her, and I'm so glad to see that it feels like the dress has elements of her old style in the original mixed with the remake style. Don Corneo sounds as sleazy as ever, and I'm still not sure if this is Mark Hamill or not. It could be, but I honestly can't tell yet. We then see Rosh drive onto the screen like a badass on his motorcycle, making a point to almost hit all of the soldiers surrounding Cloud and Avalanche. He makes a remark about the party having a good time kicking the Hornet's Nest, which is clearly a reference to their plans of attacking Shinra. He then gets off of the bike, draws his sword, and challenges Cloud to a one-on-one. I would say this takes place after the bike chase scene because he makes a subtle remark. He states, "You know what I want, a second dance, just the two of us." This indicates to me that they've previously encountered each other at some point. Even after seeing the character renders, I have to say that Rosh and all the other characters look even better than before. I'm interested to see how he plays into this whole thing. We then go back to Cloud facing off against Sephiroth in this reactor setting, with Cloud charging after him and Sephiroth cutting the catwalk in front of him. In what has become a signature moment between the two, we then see them lock swords as Cloud jumps in the air to attack him. Sephiroth claims it as a touching reunion and pushes Cloud off of the platform. What I love about the details of Sephiroth here is that the developers are doing a great job of showing the difference between Genova Roth and the real Sephiroth. You can see the cat-like eyes that he features, which is a distinct sign that this isn't the real Sephiroth. So I don't think we're getting the Nibelheim flashback in part 1 like some have theorized. I think we're getting bits and pieces of it through Cloud, which will set up the party talking about it in calm. It would make sense because after all of these incidents, eventually the party is going to start asking questions about his little episodes. I also have to say that the chamber here looks a lot like the Nibelheim reactor, and I'm wondering if that's supposed to be foreshadowing. The design is very deliberate, and I think Hojo may have designed it this way as a way of continuing his Nibelheim experiments. It may not ever be explained, but it is a cool little detail in there. Hojo then comes on the screen, watching Cloud on a monitor, overlooking the moment with Sephiroth. He states, "Very, very good, and thus is the hypothesis proved correct. I can only hope you will continue not to disappoint." I think Hojo is saying that the experimentation done on Cloud has so far yielded the results that he wants, and I'm sure this means he'll be keeping a close eye on the party. It could also be that he's talking about Sephiroth here, since Sephiroth is technically a Hojo experiment as well. I'm not sure exactly what to make of this scene just yet. What I can say is that it feels like they're really accenting the Hojo is really the mastermind of it all concept. I like this because it shows how things really were in the original, while giving Hojo that extra edge we didn't have until well into the original game. It then flashes to a scene of Cloud, Barret, and Tifa running across a broken catwalk that's the result of the Sector 7 plate dropping. They're being chased by the Heligunner, which is the first time we've seen this boss, and it appears now in a new location instead of the elevator. At first I thought this was some sort of gun that Cloud is holding here, but it must be a grappling hook of some sort. Shout out to Tangible Mammal for pointing this out to me. Then we got to see some new weapons that are on Cloud and Barret. Cloud is carrying what appears to be the Mithril Saber, while Barret's appears to be a brand new weapon. I tried to find one of the weapons in his list that looks like this from the original game, and either it was redesigned or this is a brand new weapon. Tifa is also seen here with a new weapon, as it looks like she's wearing a gauntlet that has wings on it. There's no weapon on her list that matches this description from the original game. We then hear Barret talking about how Avalanche isn't Wu-Tai or anyone's puppet, so they're really diving into this Wu-Tai connection. I'm pretty excited for that, as I've talked about that before in a little more depth. We then got yet again another summon confirmed as Leviathan made an appearance to take on the Heligunner for us. With a grand entrance, Leviathan was massive and looked very much like the sea monsters he's based off of. Its glowing eyes, sharp teeth, and tentacle-like whiskers give Leviathan an intimidating presence. With space in Midgar limited, it's unclear how often you'll actually be able to summon Leviathan during the game. I also want to point out that we didn't get Leviathan until the Pagoda and Wutai was complete. With Wutai getting a heavier focus in the story of the remake, this change makes a little sense, but now makes me wonder how they're going to handle Wutai when we get there. We get a first look at the stairs in the Shinra HQ, and this seems to confirm that we can in fact take the stairs. This is something that we already figured, but with a lot of structures being rearranged, it was unclear if this segment would remain intact. But it's also worth noting that during one of the info dumps, the Japanese translation mentioned the stairs where the English version didn't. There's also a moment where Cloud is running up the stairs, which looks like he's by himself, but there's 3 status bars on the screen. Next to the bars is a floor indicator, telling you which floor each character is on. There's one of the 2 things here I can guess, one of them being kinda funny. This could be an indication of a party split, but the party is technically still intact for the purpose of this segment. It could also be a joke about the original, where Tifa was ahead of Cloud and Barret is struggling to get up the stairs. I can't really tell from this scene, so it's still kinda up in the air about what it means. But I do want to add that in the Tokyo Game Show trailer, they showed Tifa by herself scaling the ceiling of the car showroom, so it's entirely possible that the party splits up for the rescue mission. Then we see the bathroom scene where we hop into the ventilation system right before we spy on the Shinra meeting. Cloud is crawling through the ductwork, but there's really not much to talk about here. Then we get our first look at Chocobo and Moogle in action with their final attack Stampede. The visuals for this attack are pretty cool, as instead of just Chocobo and Moogle charging, it's a whole flock of Chocobo as well. We also got our first look at the new version of Blade Beam in action, known as Blade Burst. We saw this in the info dump before, but it's another one we're seeing in action for the first time. I thought at first that the green aura around Cloud meant that Chocobo and Moogle heals you, but his health bar didn't go up, so that's not part of the ability. There's a few scenes here that have Cloud's voice overlaid on them. One is of him fighting the sweeper, then it's Tifa fighting some soldiers with an area that appears to be the aftermath of the Sector 7 plate dropping. It's worth noting that she has a new attack called Whirlwind Uppercut that we've not seen before. Over the scenes, Cloud states, "I know these people, and I know they're never going to let Aerith go. She's the last living agent on the planet. Think about what that means to Shinra scientists." I love that they added the fact that Cloud would know these things, having been in the Shinra military, and also knowing how Professor Hojo is. During these scenes, we get to see Barret using his atomic scissors, so it is confirmed that Barret will not only be long range, but he'll also be a close range fighter. It's also worth noting that Barret's health bar is the only one on the screen, so this confirms that characters will have some segments to themselves and not just Cloud. We're also seeing some new enemies in this trailer, at least new to Midgar anyway. Twin Brain is now an enemy in Midgar, but was only seen on Mount Nebel and the Battle Square in the original. Barret is seen here attacking them with his atomic scissors. It appears in the next scene that Aerith knows who Genova is, which makes sense considering she can hear the voices of her ancestors and she would know what Genova was. It then shows what appears to be Genova birth, or life, or maybe even a new Genova form materializing in front of the party. Her design here looks straight out of a horror movie or Dark Souls game. I can't believe how creepy and horrific they made this chamber and Genova look. I also want to point out that Red 13 is in the battle, but not in the party, so he's at least confirmed to be a guest character, but still no sign if he's playable or not. It seems parties will be limited to 3 members, so that's likely why he's shown as a guest in this scene. We'll likely have to wait for confirmation from Square Enix about this one. Cloud then begins attacking the tentacles, and it appears they'll be a major part of the boss fight. This gives me hope for Ruby weapon in the future, since we know that Ruby also has tentacles. Tifa has this crazy looking attack where she flies across Genova side to side, doing close range damage. We then see Barret firing off what may be a limit break, finishing off the 100 Gunner boss. It then transitions into what appears to be the aftermath of the Sector 5 bombing, as Cloud is seen falling off the catwalk. This will then transition into him falling into the church, where he will reunite with Aerith. Next is the escape from Midgar scene, and things are slightly different here. We have the same motorcycle and truck as we did in the original, but this time they're being fired on by an attack helicopter. I'm assuming that if this is a mini boss fight, then Barret will play a large role in it. We then transition to Cloud and Barret running down a pipeline with a film grain filter over the camera behind them. It appears that this is from the perspective of the machine enemy that is chasing after them. It turns out to be the sword dance enemy from the original, as we see in the next part of the scene. What's interesting here is that we see Red 13, but this is a cutscene, so we don't know if he's a guest character or a playable character yet. Next up, we get the iconic Cloud, Tifa, and Barret swinging away from the Sector 7 pillar destruction. The CGI for this scene is mind-blowing, as at some point, the lighting almost makes these characters look like real people. We then see President Shinra overlooking the plate dropping with a smirk like he's enjoying his handiwork. The party is swinging through the destruction as it starts to pile up, and then Aerith starts a monologue. She states, "The Shinra Electric Power Company isn't the real enemy, I promise you. There's a much much bigger threat. I just want to do everything in my power to help all of you and the planet. When the monologue finishes, she's seen calmly staring at the Watchmen of Fate as they circle in a mass wave around the Shinra HQ. For me, I think this shows that the Watchmen of Fate are not villains. In fact, I'm almost wanting to believe that these are Aerith's spirit guides, and she'll come to understand that through the first part of the remake. They could even be the spirits of the Cetra, helping Aerith and the party when they need it the most. The trailer ended there with the iconic logo and the new release date of April 10th, 2020. Overall, this trailer was, to me, the best one they've shown so far. So many character reveals, so much detail, and improved visuals and voice acting all made this trailer one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I'm sure I missed a lot of details that you may have seen, so let me know about them in the comments section below. Keep in mind, this is Midgar only. Imagine what the next parts are going to be like in the next generation. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to omni-slash that like button. Let me know in the comments section below what you thought of the trailer, and if there's anything that I might have missed. Subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell to join the ranks of Soldier today. And for all the latest Final Fantasy VII Remake, news, rumors, and trailers, I'm Soldier First Class, and I'm on to the next mission. Later, guys. Yes! Oh, God! Yes! Finally! Sorry.